Hey guys, it's Stephanie, and according to my bullet journal, it's time for a wrap-up. Now, I already did a mini wrap-up, and that's basically my June wrap-up part 1, so this is basically June wrap-up part 2. And I'm just going to talk about 5 books. So 3 of them are 2019 releases. Well, one of them was written before 2019, but it's the Jonathan Janz book, and all his books are getting a re-release. And so this is the one that was re-released in May. But I wanted to start off with a book that I read on my trip and I read during the Pride Horror-a-thon, and that was Cooper S. Beckett's Osgood Has Gone. And this is the first in a series. So we follow Prudence Osgood, who used to be a paranormal TV investigator with her friend and partner Audrey, until there were some events that put an end to their friendship and a car accident that has really messed up Prudence physically and mentally. She has a lot of nightmares and a lot of PTSD about this specific car accident. Going into one of my favorite tropes that we will see again in this video, but it's like the alcoholic PI, like private investigator who's like working through their own issues but is like really good at what they do. And so she's a private investigator and she gets a cryptic email and it leads her to something that her and Audrey were working on. And so we go and follow these cryptic emails through this like conspiracy talk show radio, and it leads to like all of these kids that went missing around a certain time. And this was so compelling. I really enjoyed this book and I really enjoyed the characters in here. There's also some illustrations. I'll look for one that doesn't give anything away. But that, I mean, you don't have context for that, but there's a lot of really cool illustrations in here. And like I said, this is the first part of a series, so I'm really interested to keep going in this series. Like I said, I read this for Pride Horror-a-thon, and Prudence is pansexual and non-monogamous, and she just is very, you know, dark and quippy, and she was just a ton of fun to read about. I cannot wait for the series to continue, so I would definitely suggest checking that out. That is Osgood Has Gone. I think it's like the Prudence Osgood #1 by Cooper S. Beckett. So the next book was a Jonathan Janz book. This is House of Skin. So this is one of his earlier books, and Flame Tree is just re-releasing a lot of his titles this year, and that's why a lot of people are using #Year of Janz. And so this follows a man named Paul who inherits a giant house from his long-lost uncle, and the house is named Watermere, and he decides that this is going to be a new start for him. He breaks up with his girlfriend, he moves into this house and decides that, you know, this is going to be the start of his writing career, and he sits down to write a novel. And he wakes up to an already written novel and no memory of writing this novel, and the stuff that's in this novel is sinister and has a lot of truths in it that there's no way that he should know, and the locals don't trust him because his family didn't have a great reputation within this town, and it all has to do with his uncle's wife Annabelle, and she's playing a big part in this. So I enjoyed this because I enjoy Jonathan Janz as a writer, and I really liked the turn that the story took. I think he does a really good job of setting things up and setting up characters that we care about, and this was a small enough cast that I could keep track of everyone, which was a little harder for me with the Dark Game because there was like 15 people we were following. And one thing that I also saw from the Dark Game that I really like is the story within a story. So we read a lot of Paul's manuscript that he wrote, and I always really enjoy that. I would say like every time a male character saw a woman, they would like freak out and turn into mush and like immediately become aroused, like constantly. And there's a few reasons for that. Like the character Annabelle is like this very sexual character, and I'm by no means saying that horror should be sanitized or desexualized. It was just like constantly, like I felt like a man and a woman couldn't have an interaction that wasn't like, I am aroused by this woman. This book really has no likable characters other than maybe the sheriff. So in that sense, I'm okay with it, and this is an earlier one of his novels, and it's not something I see a lot of in his books now, but I don't know, like that just bothered me. I wanted to take these men and just throw them in cold showers. Like, you know what I mean? Like, chill out. But other than that, like, very enjoyable. This is nowhere close to dethroning any of my favorites, but, you know, a solid Jonathan Janz novel. And I was so excited to read Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. We interviewed him for our podcast, Books in the Freezer, and it was a ton of fun. I really liked Final Girls. I didn't love The Last Time I Lied as much, but I still thought it was like a solid book. And I was really excited to read this because there's so many Rosemary's Baby comparisons. This follows a woman named Jules who is living in New York City. She has had the worst luck. Like, she broke up with her boyfriend, so she's moved out of the apartment that they shared together. She's currently living on a friend's couch, doesn't have a job, you know, is quickly running out of money. You know, her parents have died, so she really has nowhere to go, nowhere to turn. And she finds an ad for a job, and this job is just apartment sitter. And she goes to the job appointment, and it's in this very high-end, like, historical building that's very exclusive. And the lady's just basically telling her what the job entails. And it's basically just, they need someone to stay and take care of the room and make sure that it's lived in. And, you know, everything about it seems too good to be true, but I was talking to the author, and I said, like, I would also take this job. Just the way that everything came together was very believable. I loved the twist in this. It was very dark, very atmospheric. And like, I could not put this down. And a lot of people that I really trust rated this really high, including Carla at Carlos Book Bits and Emily at Book Happy. And I think April at Getting Hooga With It also enjoyed it. So I believe that I had been having rotten luck with thrillers. This broke that. So this was like the perfect time to read it too. So I definitely suggest picking this up if you want like a really engrossing quick read. And now for the two books I read digitally. I read The Changeling by Victor LaValle. This is a horror / modern fairy tale story that takes place in New York. We follow a man named Apollo, and his wife has done the unthinkable. She has killed his infant son and disappeared. He is at a loss of what to do. She was saying some really weird stuff before any of this happened, and so now he is on a journey to find her and talk to her about this because there's just a lot of stuff in his life that isn't adding up. I really liked this story. Now that I've read, you know, 2 of Victor LaValle's novels and 1 novella, I feel like I kind of have a sense for his style a little more. It's a little more slow burn. It's very literary. It's very character focused. So far, all 3 of them have very much been New York stories. And so I loved this modern look at fairy tales, and especially through the lens of what it means to be a parent in the modern age with internet. As a parent, like, I definitely related to a lot of things that, like, you know, now that it's your turn, you definitely think like, oh, I'm gonna do things so much better than the previous generation did, but that's what every generation has thought since, like, who knows when. How much more there is to think about now that there is social media. This just went a lot of like interesting places. Like, I feel like it's a very straightforward story for like the first half, and then in the second half is where the more, you know, implausible fantasy fairy tale-esque elements start to seep in. So I'm just letting you know, obviously I'm telling you it's a fairy tale story. Very enjoyable. I will definitely read like whatever he puts out. I have enjoyed it. So that was The Changeling by Victor LaValle. And a novella that I read on Kindle Unlimited that I absolutely loved was Rites of Extinction by Matt Serafini. And this follows another alcoholic private investigator, and she's making her way to this small town to hunt down the man that murdered her daughter. It was her daughter's boyfriend at the time, and he brutally murdered her daughter. So she's followed him to this rural small town called Bright Fork, and she starts questioning people. Like, when she checks into the hotel clerk shows her the room that the man had just been in, and it's disgusting. There's a lot of weird stuff written on the walls, and I don't want to give anything away. I will say this is like a folk horror novel, so I mean the title is Rites of Extinction, so there is like rituals and stuff like that. So if you are not into like cults and like, you know, Ari Aster's like Midsummer-esque type stuff, but if you are, this is so good. And it was a novella, so it was under 200 pages. I could not put this down. Like, that last third of the book had a crazy twist, and the gruesome level got kicked up to like 10. So I definitely recommend it. It's pretty brutal, but also pretty great. That was Matt Serafini's Rites of Extinction. So anyway, guys, those are the books that I read in the second half of June. I am trying to read more Kindle Unlimited books. So as always, if you have any recommendations for those, I'm always here for those. Let me know what was the best book you read in June. And once again, thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you again soon. Bye.